Hey guys, welcome to the Week 10 recap. This week's biggest blowout and top score, Pope 1.0's To Deuce or Not To Deuce, thumps Lee's Tanking for Golf, 182.3 to 122.8. When you have four players score more than 27 points, you're going to be tough to beat. And Derrick Henry had another one of those huge games he has once or twice a year, putting up 35.1 points versus the Chiefs. You got 30.5 points from Baltimore, 29.2 points from Amari Cooper, and 27.3 points from Aaron Jones. And Jameis Winston added in 21.3 points to boot. Somehow you managed to get the right defense in, opting for Baltimore over Pittsburgh, somehow correctly identifying that Baltimore would outscore Pittsburgh 30.5 to 29.8. Lee, you got 28.9 points from Dak Prescott and 21.8 points from Golden Tate. Lee, you had your best possible roster in play here, having only 2.3 points on your bench that you got from Mike Gesicki. You had Adam Thielen, who was out this week. Other than that, everybody else was on bye. Even Lamar Miller in your IR spot was on bye. Lee, at 3-7, it's looking like you're not going to make the playoffs. That and your name change to start tanking for golf. That's only going to leave you 3 weeks left to get a high score this season. And one of those weeks you play me, so it can't be that week. That means you probably need to put up the high score this week or in week 13. Otherwise, you'd be incorrectly showing the premise of the movie Dogma is wrong and that God isn't infallible. Or maybe just Jesus lied to you. Or maybe that was a fake Jesus. This week's closest matchup, Derek's Freeman fuck-up project got past Josh's Please Not Last Again, 77.5 to 76.7, a tiny .88 point margin of victory. This was quite the low-scoring effort all around. Derek's top-scoring guy this week was 13.8 points from Greg Olsen, followed up by 11.5 points from Drew Brees, and 10 points from Will Lutz. Everyone else had less than 10 points, but at least everyone scored at least 5.5 points.
Well, this calls for a celebration. I will.
Josh got 17.6 points from Chris Carson to lead all scorers in this matchup. Josh opted to start Fitzmagic this week, getting 13.1 points from him. You could have won this matchup by getting Jarvis Landry in at either of your wide receiver spots or your flex spot, as Landry's 20.2 points led all players in scoring this week in this matchup. This is Derek's third game of the season that's been within 2 points. He likes playing these close games. So far, he's 2-1 in these games, defeating Josh and Lee and losing to Chris. In other matchups, my Melvin Gordon Bombay defeats Brandon's Blown Call 153 to 129. I got 37.8 points from Christian Kirk and 33.4 points from Lamar Jackson to lead my squad. Fortunately, Jalen Samuels will likely be heading back to my bench as he had no success on the ground this week, putting up only 5.5 points in the win against the shit show that is the road team Rams. James Conner should be back in time for the Thursday Night Football this week, so I don't have to start him again this week, hopefully. I also got 22.8 points from Melvin Gordon. Brandon's Patrick Mahomes matched Lamar Jackson's fireworks, scoring 32.8 points of his own to keep pace with Jackson. This was a really close matchup, with the exception of the huge day from Kirk. The 27-point difference between Kirk in my flex and John Brown in your flex accounted for a little more than the 24-point margin in this game. You had great games from your starting running backs, Josh Jacobs and Nick Chubb, getting 17 and 16 points respectively. This was your best game so far this year in terms of scoring. Hopefully it keeps up and you can slow down the terror that is Drew in 2 weeks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shooter McGavin.
Let's get one thing straight. This is Shooter's tour. I've worked hard my whole life, paid my dues, and now it's Shooter's turn.
He's got an incredible short game, chipping and putting that goes unnoticed because his ball striking is so unparalleled.
And he says, you can't believe this guy. He says, I've never seen anything like it. He is the most obsessive person I've ever seen. Sex, gambling, whatever. He does everything absolutely full out.
Let me show you how we do it in the pros.
He couldn't be stopped.
So many experts were predicting tremendous success for him.
What's your assessment for your ability to play under pressure?
What if I told you it wasn't Shooter's turn? 30 stories, 30 filmmakers, 30 years. ESPN's 30 for 30. Tuesday, the Ballad of Shooter McGavin.
Speaking of Drew, Drew's Run CMC climbs all the way up to second place after defeating Nick's Hootie and T Blowfish 144.7 to 103.5. Drew got 30.5 points from Tyreek Hill, 27.8 points from Dalvin Cook, 26.1 points from Christian McCaffrey, 20.3 points from Mark Andrews, and 19.5 from San Francisco. He survived the goose egg that Cooper Kupp put up in the loss against Pittsburgh. For Nick, he got 24.7 points from Michael Thomas and a quad box of games between 14 and 16 points from Hollywood Brown, Harrison Butker, Le'Veon Bell, and Matt Ryan. You opted to start Chris Herndon, who had been hurt most of the season, finally getting out for his first start of the season, and he got hurt again right after putting up 1.2 points. And you opted to start the Giants D versus the Jets, getting only 1.8 points there as well. It's a couple of poor selections from the waiver wire last week, didn't do a whole lot for you this week. The following clip is the opposite of Nick's waiver wire selections this week.
Oh my God! Did everybody see that? Okay, last one.
Alex's Funkle Up knocks off Chris's two men in a defense, 118.6 to 64.1. Alex got a 30-point game from Daniel Jones, putting up 4 passing touchdowns and 308 passing yards, and the Giants still couldn't beat the Jets. Also, you got 22.3 points from the Rams defense, 16.6 points from Jamison Crowder, and a trio of 10 to 11-point games from Austin Eckler, Kareem Hunt, and Jared Cook. Chris takes his second loss in as many weeks. No bye-week excuses this week. Your team just never showed up for this one. You got 16.6 points from Russell Wilson and 11.4 points from Alvin Kamara. You probably could have used Kyler Murray in your starting lineup over Russell Wilson, which would have netted you an extra 10 points. But David Johnson putting up a negative half of a point, Cameron Brate putting up a goose egg, meant you really didn't have much of a chance. Don't worry, buddy. I'm sure your team will fire back on all cylinders next week and stomp the piss out of my team. These two back-to-back weeks netted you a hair under 137 points total. This is one of the worst 2-game stretches in league history. And finally, Pope 2.0's Pew Pews defeats Jason's I Was Saying Boo Earns 106.5 to 96.9. The Pew Pews were led this week by Josh Allen, putting up 25.4 points, followed up by 19.1 points from Joe Mixon, who's finally put up back-to-back decent games, and 17 points from Travis Kelce. J Money got 18.6 points from Ronald Jones, 14.2 points from Chicago's defense, and 5 other double-digit games. The Kittle injury was a big one for you, as with him out, you turned to the waiver wire to find help and went for the ageless wonder Jason Witten. Unfortunately, Witten only had 2 catches for 17 yards. Saquon Barkley getting held to only 5.6 points probably didn't help much either. This game was almost entirely featured in the starting lineups, with Pope 2.0 getting 2.4 points from Ty Johnson. Johnson has been a bust so far, putting up 3 games of 4.3, 5.1, and 2.4 since Pope 2.0 claimed him for $40 on October 23rd. You've still got $20 left after handing out 40s to Johnson and Kalen Ballage. I'm sure you can find a way to get rid of that final 20.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Here's the updated playoff odds for this week, 3 weeks of regular season remaining. The top 5 still look pretty much locked into some sort of an order, but that 6th seed continues to open up for lots of different people. This is at least a 3-man race now, with Derek currently ahead of Alex and Josh. In terms of outstanding wagers, the Cobb Kumaro wager between Drew and myself is currently sitting at 31-10 in favor of Cobb. There were no changes in the AFC North standings this week. Baltimore won, Pittsburgh won, Cleveland won, and Cincinnati still sucks. And that's it for the week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you after next week's recap.